There are a couple of lessons that I've learned here that I think are applicable here. Is one, I learned that you never get in the way of momentum from a front office perspective, and they rolled into the All-Star break dominating. Number two is that you can't predict the future in the game. The game is too humbling, so don't try to. And number three, if you're going to make a difficult decision, you better get it right. And so I look at the players they got back in this difficult decision because Rogers is a free agent at the end of the year. They've already designated Mr. Lamet. And Gasser is like not ready to pitch in the big leagues.
Right.
And Ruiz, I think, is going to be a good major league player, but I don't think he's an aircraft carrier. What you trade it. So when you're a GM, you look at the strength of your club and you say, okay, you look at your offense and you go, okay, we're an average offensive team. We do hit some home runs.
Right.
Number two, we catch the ball relatively well, and we've got two really great starting pitchers, and we've got depth in our rotation, maybe three if Peralta's healthy. But what we do have, without a shadow of a doubt, is we have a lockdown, game over, back end of the bullpen. I don't know why this deal could, with what they got back, saying all the things I did, I think he could have got back the same players this winter.
Right.
And not put himself or be in that defensive of position, because what he did was damage the culture, the human analytical part of our game. And we look for so much surplus value at the major league level based around analytics, but it's the human analytics, which the fabric of the clubhouse, which is, like Cameron knows, it's like this.
No stat for that.
This thin thread that can be torn so easily. He jeopardized his team here by doing that. Hey, nobody's perfect. As GMs, we all make bad decisions from time to time, but you got to learn from them when you make them and move on.
All right, very well said, very eloquent in that.
It was beautiful.
Now I'm going to go to you. How could they trade Hader?
I mean, that was beautiful. I don't know how they could trade him. I think they were looking at $15 million coming down the line next year. You know, like Dan said, when you look back at what they got in return, it just doesn't make any sense to me. You know, I know you add Taylor Rogers, I know you add Bush, but what you had in the back end of the bullpen before, you had a guy in Devin Williams who could come in the seventh inning. We talk about eighth inning. Well, at times, Devin Williams was the seventh and eighth inning, seventh inning guy, and Hader was the eighth and ninth inning guy. So he's a guy that can go out and get you 2 innings and shut it down with no issue. But now what you do, you know, Dan said something really important. You don't want to stop momentum. And when I look at that clip and I see Yelich and I see Woodruff and I see these guys saying, I'm not going to lie, this does hurt a lot. When you remove a piece of your team, a guy that's a heartbeat, a guy that's been there for as long as anybody, a veteran leader in that clubhouse, it does a lot to the team morale. It makes guys in the clubhouse start to wonder, are we trying to get to the playoffs or are we actually trying to win? You know, Bo Porter made a really good point. There comes a point in the season where even teams that are coming down the end, are we trying to win or are we just happy to get there? And this move to me looks like a move that's saying we're just happy to get there. There's only one other team in the division you're really competing with, that's St. Louis Cardinals, so they're not worried about anything else. I think they were looking at this also as, hey, we can get into the playoffs, we can get through this and not have to, you know, worry about this move coming back to haunt us because we're only looking at the Cardinals behind us chasing us down.
But you know what? They've now jeopardized themselves because the Phillies, they may not even get into the playoffs.
Exactly.
Put, you know, and I think at times.
That's predicting the future, like you said.
Right, it's just.
Don't do that.
Anybody that's been around the game, like the great players, they stay in the moment. They're very present focused. Now, as a GM and a front office person, you have to see what's coming down the road. But trying to predict what's going to come down the road is just it's an impossibility to do, and you shouldn't try to do it.
And Dan said, you remove Hader now, you bring Rogers in, who's a free agent. Do you sign him now? Do you feel like you have to go sign him now when you get rid of a guy like that? So, again, it creates a lot of issues and a lot of questions that I don't think they needed to answer, like you said right now. And it's a distraction.
The players are answering questions now that they shouldn't have asked to. And also from a front office perspective, I love players, but I never want to give them an excuse.
Right.
You've now given them excuse for their own individual struggles. They're going to point back to this. It's just, you know, but Craig Counsell, Pat Murphy, these guys are really good leaders in that clubhouse, and they've got to get it together, and they got to get it to soon, or this thing's going to spiral out of control.
And in those losses, it was some body language. I look for body language.
Okay.
If you go back to that clip, you see a lot of head hanging. Okay. You see a lot of shoulder slouching. And you didn't see that before going into the break. You saw a confident team, an energetic team. They were doing things after homers. It was a different bop to their step. And you look over these last 4 days, there's a lot more body language than I care to see.
All right, and speaking of that body language, I mean, we got probably some video of that, I think, as well. And look, and we're not saying that here's O'Neal Cruz. This is what you're talking about with Cruz laid into that bad boy.
I mean, yeah, he's special.
But and look, Devin Williams is outstanding, and we'll see what happens with Devin Williams. He did give up the homer the other night, but so we'll see what happens. But there's a difference, Dan, between being an eighth inning guy and a ninth inning guy. Not everybody can handle those last three outs.
Everybody says use your best relievers in the highest pressure points of the game. Hardest 3 outs to get or the last 3 outs of every game?
And Fran, what did I say? They're the hardest because you have grown men stepping into that box and no hitter. I can tell you from experience, nobody wants to make those last 3 outs. So guys are locking in. The focus is up a little bit more than it was the whole game.
And the pressure's on that guy.
And the pressure's on. Yep, absolutely. Not that easy to do.
And meanwhile, Hader, I mean, he's made an appearance with the Padres, ended up getting the win, and the second game of a doubleheader. And you can't tell me that clubhouse isn't excited to say, hey, we got a guy who's been the reliever of the year
There are a lot of clubhouses going right now. How come we didn't get that guy?
Yeah, I mean, you saw Joe Musgrove just elated about getting that guy. I mean, Snell was talking about it during the game. He said, oh, yeah, we got that left-handed guy who closes games. He's pretty good.